When the resurrected Jesus at the beginning of the book of Acts ascends into heaven, he leaves the disciples, the first Christians, in a politically treacherous position. They are pressed on both sides by the Roman Empire's political might, which had become religious, and the Jewish authorities' religious might, which had become political. The Jews saw them as blasphemous schismatics. The Romans saw them as dangerous subversives and potential rebels. They worshipped in a way that was unsanctioned. They were treated as a cult, the strange faction of confused Jews roaming around the world making trouble. They had no political rights, no representation, no protection. They lived at the mercy of the whims of whoever was in power over them at the time. And they are tossed about. It is an incredibly dangerous time to be a Christian. Persecution ranges from random acts of violence and disenfranchisement through active, planned persecution and attempts to kill off the whole movement. It is a difficult landscape for the church to navigate. And we see this all through the book of Acts and through the epistles, the writings of the early church. We see things like, this is one of my favorites, from Acts 17 in Thessalonica. I'll start at verse 5. The Jewish leaders were jealous and got some of these worthless bums who hung around the marketplace to start a riot in the city. They wanted to drag Paul and Silas out to the mob, so they went straight to Jason's home. Jason had welcomed them. But when they did not find them there, they dragged out Jason and some of the other followers of Christ. They took them to the city authorities and shouted, "The men who have turned the world upside down have come here as well. They're criminals. They seek to undermine Caesar and the Roman authorities by claiming that there is another king, someone named Jesus." To be a Christian was as much a political statement as it was a religious statement. They resisted the old ways of relating to the divine, but they also resisted the status quo, the way that the world was being taught to relate to each other. They engaged with power differently. They engaged with the weak differently. They engaged with their opposition differently. These people turned the world upside down, and the world didn't appreciate it. Maybe that's what Paul was thinking when he wrote these words to the church in Corinth in his second letter, 2 Corinthians chapter 4. I'm going to read from 8 to 10. Trouble surrounds us and presses in on us, but we know there is always a way out. Even when we do not know which way to go, we never lose hope or give in to fear. We are hunted down and mistreated, but God never abandons us. Even when beaten to the ground, we get up and we keep walking. Everywhere we go, death bears down on us. Our bodies are dying in the same way as Jesus. And in this way, Jesus' life is also put on display through us.